obsession of mind and allergy of the body. We're going to discover that we've got a switch loose somewhere in our head, right? And, we just got out of jail. I've been in jail for 30 days. I don't have any alcohol in my body. I got out of jail after 30 days. My wife asked me to leave. I'm facing a couple years in prison. I got fired. But for some reason, my mind says, hey, boy, just one drink would make you feel good. That's the obsession of the mind, right? And then the allergy of the body, and in a nutshell, the allergy of the body is once we take alcohol into our body, we get an actual physical craving and our body wants more. So it's a twofold disease: obsession of the mind, allergy of the body. And I mean, I've heard so many descriptions of it. A body that can't take alcohol, right? Because every time we take a little, we take a lot, and bad things happen. And a mind that can't leave it alone, right? So one guy said it like this. He said, "Can't drink, can't quit." You can't drink and you can't quit. You're screwed, right? That's essentially what the problem is. So we want to get people, into detox. I'm a big believer of just getting them into the hospital. That first time, funny enough, when I went up to Hazleton in Center City, and it was unusual. I was only 24, and they said, we don't take kids here. But I went there. I'll never forget. I was there, and I wasn't drunk or anything, but I got dropped off, and a woman pulled up. And the door opened, and this guy got out of the car, and he was drunk off his ass. He had a fishing rod, a hat with lures on it, and his fishing bag, and he just got out. His wife threw the bag out and took off, and the guy thought he was at a fishing resort. I just thought it was kind of funny. We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. Okay, so circle the word allergy again, okay? And then highlight the next two lines. That the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. Okay, so the word allergy, right? I used to think when I saw that, and I said, what the hell? How can I be allergic to something I'm drinking a quart of a day? I can't be allergic to that, right? So I got this from Joe and Charlie, right? They looked the word allergy up in the dictionary, and it said, usually a physical manifestation brought on by a food, beverage, or substance. Okay, so again, how can I be allergic to alcohol when I can drink a quart a day, or maybe a quart every other day? I don't. Usually, an allergy is a rash, watery eyes, runny nose, dysentery, something of that nature, right? So, one definition of allergy is an abnormal reaction to something, an abnormal reaction. So we got to ask ourselves, what's normal and what's not normal, right? I used to go I go to the Vikings game, and I would get good and drunk before I went to the game. I thought everybody at the game was drunk, right? I mean, if you didn't drink like me, you didn't drink with me. When I was in college, we would drink 2 cases of beer before we went out to the bars, and I thought everybody drank like that. So I didn't know that that was an abnormal thing to do, right? So I don't know what is normal, right? So what is a social temperate drinker, right? 9 out of 10 people are social temperate drinker, right? They come home from work, they're tired, they're tense, they're wrought up from the day's work. They have a couple of drinks. They get a relaxing, comfortable feeling. They have dinner, and they don't drink anymore that night, right? I don't feel that way when I drink. It's not what happens to me. They have a couple of drinks. They get a slightly tipsy, dizzy, out of control feeling, and they don't like it. They don't like that feeling at all, and they stop drinking. I mean, if you've ever been out with a non-alcoholic and you're just getting started, try to get these guys to drink more. It's like, have another shot, have another drink. And they say, no, 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 I can feel this. I don't want any more, man. I don't want any more. And you say, oh, come on, just one more. And they're like, no, I'm starting to feel sick and nauseous. 2 or 3 drinks is all they want, right? For them, it's a downer. It's a sedative. No more. These people get enough booze every single time they drink, right? Now, for me, alcohol is an upper. It's a stimulant, right? They get a tipsy, out of control, let's go to bed kind of a feeling. I get an exciting, in control feeling, right? I can get home after a 16-hour day. I'm exhausted. I'm beat. I can drink a half pint of whiskey. All of a sudden, my eyes open up, and I am ready to go out to the bars and chase girls, man. I wake up and I'm ready to go. They have 2 drinks and they want to go to bed. I got 2 drinks. I want to go to the bar. I want to meet people and have fun. So we react different physically and mentally, right? They will not drink more than that 2 or 3 drinks, right? I've had enough. Now, has anybody ever, I'm going to kind of describe this allergy. And by the way, the word craving, when they use the word craving in the book, they're in the context of the big book, that's after we've already had a drink or 2. That's when we crave it, right? So if somebody's been sober for a year, in the terms of the big book, meaning they want to drink, they need a drink, they miss drinking. But in terms of the big book, we only crave more liquor after we've put it into our body. Now, I don't know if anybody's started drinking and then all of a sudden not be able to get more booze. Torture, man. You just get started, right? I didn't know much about this physical allergy because I always made sure that I had everything. I mean, I always had booze. I had booze hidden every single place, so I would not run out. So, but there was, there's been a few times. Once I went to the Boundary Waters with Mike Wander, and I had a half gallon of whiskey. And we paddled in for 2 days, and, after 2 days, that night, Mike had, a couple of shots. I had, I'd say maybe 3/4 of that half gallon of whiskey, right? I got enough that night. I passed out. We traveled a little bit further in, and the next night, there was maybe only a pint left. And I drank that, and all of a sudden I ran out, and there I am in the middle of Boundary Waters. I started to go insane. I wanted a drink. I'm like, my God, this is crazy. So, I didn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned, got up in the morning, and I said, Mike, I just remembered, we got to get back. And I was back paddling, and we paddled straight through to get back. And even though it was a couple of days later, I kept beelining so I could get to that liquor store. It was just sheer torture running out and not having more booze. That's the physical allergy, right? And we're going to look at that disease chart in a minute. Let's see here. So alcohol is a toxic substance, and the average temperate drinker, right, their bodies want to puke it out. It's poison, right? My body demands more. Now, I'm 1 out of 10 people, so that is an abnormal reaction. You can't see it. You can only feel it, right? It isn't like if I eat a strawberry and go down and start having convulsions, right? By the way, if somebody's allergic to strawberries, they only got to find that out once. We alcoholics got to find it out thousands of times. So when I go, for example, I go over to my sister's house, today, right? And, we're having dinner, and she gets out, and I don't mind if people drink around me. It doesn't bother me at all. Matter of fact, I say, feel free to drink around me. I don't keep booze in my house, but I go over somewhere, they come to my house for dinner, by all means, bring some wine. So my sister opens up, she makes a big production. Oh, I think I'll take this bottle of wine with the fish we're having. And she opens it up, and she gets out a nice glass, makes a big production of pouring it, and she swirls it around like this, and I'm just watching her, right? Then what does she do? She sets it down. She sets the damn thing down. And we talk. I'm like, drink it. Come on, you're killing me. Drink it. That's a normal drinker. But she'll have a couple glasses, maybe two, and at the end of the meal, there's always like this much left in the glass. And I'm like, my God. When I was a little kid, and I was at a big dinner, and all the adults had wine, when everybody got in the other room, I would run around and I would drink all the half-empty wine glasses. So, I mean, it's crazy. I was in the Boundary Waters last year. We were coming out, and we stopped for lunch, and our waiter, and I could see this guy he was completely hungover, man. I didn't know if he was going to get the food to us, but he came walking up to us. It's about 11 in the morning, and he said, "Hey, guys, you want a shot of tequila?" Right? And I just looked at the guy, and I said, "I'd love one, but I got to be to work in 5 days," right? I knew he was an alcoholic. He looked at me. He didn't get it, though. But the point is, if I took that drink, I might not make it to work in 4 days, right? Because I've got that problem. Okay, so let's grab this disease chart for a minute. Let's see. Where's the one I got? I got my writing on this one here. So we're just going to look. Okay, so this is not AA-related material. I want to let everybody know this. If people, if we start to wonder why we're allergic, that might cause a controversy. We want no controversies in AA. So this is actually done by some doctors. And again, I also stole this from Joe and Charlie. So let's go over to the very far right, where it says one drink. Okay, we're going to go over to where it says one drink. Let's follow the arrows up, right? And at the top of the page in the middle, it says 9 drink safely. They are at ease with alcohol. Okay, so a regular person takes one, or they start drinking. They have enzymes of sufficient quantity and quality. Their body is able to break that alcohol down into acetaldehyde. Then the body breaks it down into diacetic acid. Then it breaks it down to acetone. Okay, turns into empty calories, and it goes out through the respiratory, urinary, and intestinal tracts. An average normal drinker processes about 1 ounce of booze an hour. So if they have 1 drink an hour, they can't get drunk, right? If they start drinking any more than that, you better watch out, because they're going to probably throw it up. But now let's see that 1 drink. Let's follow the arrows over to the far left-hand side, okay? So this is 1 out of 10 of us, right? 1 does not drink safely or is at dis-ease with alcohol. So we alcoholics have enzymes of insufficient quantity and quality, right? So our bodies break it down into acetaldehyde, then they break it down into diacetic acid, okay, and then into acetone. But we cannot get rid of that acetone like a regular person. So there's a little bit of acetone in our blood, and it's been proven by doctors that causes us an actual physical craving for more of the same. So imagine, we've got that acetone from the first drink, we drink a second drink. Now we got even more acetone left over. We crave more. We drink that third drink, right? More. Then we have more acetone after 15 drinks than we did after 1. So we are craving alcohol more after 15 drinks than we did after 1, right? It sets off a craving, and we can't control it, right? So, that explains why sometimes, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm lying on the bathroom floor of the sports page. I just got the hell beat out of me, and somebody runs up and says, "Can we help you, sir? Can we help you?" I said, "Yes, get me another drink," right? I want more booze. That explains why I never got enough alcohol. I got more than I could take. I got more than I could handle. I got more than enough to kill me, but I never got enough. I always wanted more. That is proven today. So that's what the physical allergy of craving is, in layman's terms. We're going to refer to this a little bit later when we look at the obsession. So let's see here if there's anything more I got. And again, most times I always protected my supply so I didn't have to go through, so I could always drink myself into oblivion. Okay, so let's go back to the book. Let's see here. Any idea where I was in the book here?
Yeah, right after the phenomenon.
Average temperate drinker?
Yeah.
These
Okay.
allergic types.
Okay, yep. These allergic types can never, circle that word never, never safely use alcohol. Right? That's why, can't use, can't quit, right? When we say we've got a body that can't take alcohol and a mind that can't leave it alone. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. Next to that, let's write step 1, powerlessness. Step 1, powerlessness. And then I'm sorry, and then we got to go up to that line that we highlighted. If I didn't say it, we were supposed to write physical allergy can't be controlled. That's the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. By that, write physical allergy can't be controlled, and then by the rest of the paragraph, step 1, powerlessness. And I got to tell you guys, some of us have been able to drink safely for years. For years, right? And for me, the first time I ever got a beer, I snuck out and I stole a Kegelbrau out of my parents' case. I went back for another one, then I went back for 4. I threw up and blacked out. But many of us, the allergy presented itself the very first time. But many of us can drink safely for years, right? But all of a sudden, we reach a point where we cross that damn line, and then we can no longer safely use alcohol, right? What difference does it make? We're all in the same boat. We just got there by different routes, right? Doesn't matter. By the way, some people, the allergy of drinking, some people can have maybe 2 drinks one night. Oh, I got away with it, right? Maybe they got 4 drinks the next night, right? But then that third night, they go berserk and have their 20. So we're all different, right? So, I mean, if you don't drink like me, that doesn't mean you're not an alcoholic. We're all different. Frothy, let's highlight this next little sentence. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices, right? So, golly, I just remember my mom, John, you're killing me. Look at what you're doing to your life. Please, you've got to stop. You're in jail. You lost a job. You're killing yourself. Stop for the children. That seldom works for us, right? So don't feel bad if it didn't work on you, right? The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. And then highlight the next 3 lines. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. Okay, so highlight that, circle must, and next to it write step 2. Step 2. The way I look at it, if I'm suffocating, I need air. I need air if I'm suffocating. If I'm starving, I need food, right? If I don't have the power to stop drinking, I need the power to stop drinking, right? If I want to save my life. If any feel that as psychiatrists directing a hospital for alcoholics we appear somewhat sentimental, let them stand with us for a while on the firing line, see the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work and even of their sleeping moments. And the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. We feel, after many years of experience, that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them. So let's highlight the next 4 lines. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. Right? Some people put a big duh next to that one. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the true from the false. Right? So again, man, I thought doesn't everybody drink like me? I don't know what's normal, what's not normal. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. Highlight, they are restless, irritable, and discontented, just those words right there. unless they can again experience a sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others taking with impunity. Okay, so back down to where we highlighted restless, irritable, and discontented. I don't know if any of you have gone through periods of forced sobriety. You're not happy about it. But right next to that one, I like to write dry, drunk, still an asshole. Because when I went through those periods, I was restless, I was irritable, and I was discontented, and I was not drinking, and I didn't like it. And I'm walking down the hallway at work, you better get the hell out of my way, man. Get the hell out of my way, because I'm not a happy guy. So that's what they mean by dry drunk, right? So we can go without drinking, but usually we're assholes. Now, some people say, you know, John, I drink because I like the taste of that beer. I'm not an alcoholic. I love the taste of beer. You know, and I'll look at that person and I'll say, well, you know, I like the taste of Coca-Cola. But I have never sat down and drank an entire case of Coca-Cola in one sitting, right? Because that, you know, that beer does something for us that Coca-Cola doesn't do. So, you know, that's for the I like the taste people. And by the way, drinks which they see others taking with impunity. That used to kill me. You know, at my first Hazelton at 24, you get out, you go over to your buddy's house on Sunday, the football game on, and they're all sitting around able to have a couple of beers, and I'm sitting there looking at that going, damn, I can do it too, right? It killed me. So in early sobriety, I don't think it's good that we are around people that are drinking, and people whose significant others are still drinking. That's a very, very dangerous situation. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, this is after we've been restless, irritable, and discontent for a while, and we're not drinking, and the phenomenon of craving develops. Okay, we're going to highlight to the end of the paragraph. They pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over and over and over. And unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. So by psychic change, it seems commonsensical, but by psychic change, just write change in my thinking. Change in my thinking / spiritual awakening. A psychic change is another word for a spiritual experience, a spiritual awakening, a change in the way I think. And then right above that, the little highlighting we did, next to that, write step 1, powerless. When we do it over and over and over. You know, I don't know if there's anybody in this room at one time or another that has said, that's it, I'm never having another drink as long as I live, damn it, right? And then what do? We have that drink. And I mean, I can't tell you. I think it was Mark Twain was talking about smoking. He said, quitting's easy. I've done it thousands of times, right? That's the same with us. I can't tell you. I told my mother, I said, Mom, after a particularly bad one, broke her heart, Mom, I will never have another drink as long as I live. Well, maybe it was later that night or maybe it was the next day, but there I was drinking. On the other hand, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, underline, up to doomed, the very same person who seemed doomed, just that little bit there, who had so many problems, he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily to control his desire for alcohol. Okay, highlight the next 2 lines. The only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. And circle that word required, right? And next to it write suggestions, ? You know, I get a lot of people too and say, well, those steps are just suggested. Well, yeah, you know what? They're the only suggestions we got. If you want to live, I recommend you take them. So here it's saying required, right? Required. By the way, after a few simple rules, write 12 steps. 12 steps. Men have cried out to me in sincere and despairing appeal, "Doctor, I cannot go on like this. I have everything to live for. I must stop," circle the musts, "but I cannot. You must," circle must, "help me." Faced with this problem, highlight the next two lines. If a doctor is honest with himself, he must, circle must, sometimes feel his own inadequacy. So next to that, let's write, doctors can't help. We need more. I mean, they can recommend that we go to AA, but going to psychiatrists, and I don't know, man. Some of us need psychiatrists in addition to working the steps and meetings, but I've never run into anybody alone who's been able to quit just by going to a psychiatrist. So sometimes these doctors feel his own inadequacy. Although he gives all that is in him, it is often not enough. One feels, underline the next two sentences, that something more than human power is needed to produce the essential psychic change. Okay, so next to that, write higher power. Higher power. And for starters, you know what? If it's a group of drunks, that's fine. If it's the fellowship to start out with, that's fine. Whatever it is. And, I've discovered that people's higher power, they're all different. Nobody in any kind of religious place is going to define what my higher power is for me, right? That's something that I'm developing over time through asking my higher power for help. Though the aggregate means total, though the aggregate of recoveries resulting from psychiatric effort is considerable, we physicians must admit we have made little impression upon the problem as a whole. Very little. Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach. I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. Circle mental control, draw a little arrow over and write willpower. That's our willpower. We're going to talk about our willpower a little bit later too. I have had many, highlight to the end of the page, I have had many men who had, for example, worked a period of months on some problem or business deal which has to be settled on a certain date favorable to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to the date, and then the phenomenon of craving, there it is, at once became paramount to all other interests, so that the important appointment was not met. Stop highlighting there. And that's happened to me. I had my boss one time, he said, "John, if you show up drunk to the Saturday morning meeting one more time, you're fired." I did not drink Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. By the time I got to Friday, I was so nervous and edgy that I decided to have just one drink. Right? I showed up the very next Saturday drunk. I got fired. These men were not drinking to escape. They were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. There are many situations which arise out of the phenomenon of craving which cause men to make the supreme sacrifice. Highlight supreme sacrifice. And we're going to write suicide rather than continue to fight. In this context, it's suicide, right? In the good context, it's when somebody in the service gives their life to save others. That's the good part of it. But for us, it's the bad way. Suicide. The classification of alcoholics seems most difficult and in much detail is outside the scope of this book. Okay, we're going to write, and I'm going to speed up a little bit. We're going to write the 5 different types of drinkers. The classification of alcoholics seems most different and much... there are, of course, the psychopaths. Circle psychopaths, right? Type 1. There's no name I'm going to give that, just psychopaths. Who are emotionally unstable. We are all familiar with this type. They're always going on the wagon for keeps. They are over-remorseful and make many resolutions, but never a decision. Underline never a decision. After it, write step 3. Draw a little line under make many resolutions, and underneath it, write type 2, denial. There is the type of man who is unwilling to admit that he cannot take a drink. He plans various ways of drinking. He changes his brand or his environment. That's the denial. Draw a little line after environment. And then we're going to write type 3, allergy has gone, question mark. There is the type who always believes that after being entirely free from alcohol for a period of time, he can take a drink without danger. I've been sober 90 days. I'm probably not even alcoholic. Allergy has gone, question mark. Little line after danger. There is the manic depressive type, who is perhaps the least understood by his friends and about whom a whole chapter could be written. Okay, we're going to write type 4, bipolar. And then the next one, of course, I think is me, and I'm sure most of you as well. So we're going to write, under a chapter could be written, we're going to write type 5. Then there are types entirely normal in every respect, except in the effect alcohol has upon them. They are often able, intelligent, friendly people, right? They know me well. That's me, type 5. So we've got 5 different types of drinkers. And what they're saying in here that is, if every one of us in this room right now, were to take a drink, okay, we're all going to react differently, right? Somebody's going to go over to the corner and they're going to go, boo-hoo, the world doesn't treat me right, it's not fair. Somebody else is going to get up on the table and they're going to start dancing and hooping and hollering, right? Another 2 people are going to be in the corner in a fist fight. Over in the other corner, there's going to be 2 people making the pass at each other, right? So we're all going to react differently, except what are we all going to do? We're all going to look for the next drink, and then the next, and then the next. So let's highlight the entire next paragraph. All these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. This phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy, which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. It has never been, by any treatment with which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. So highlight that whole paragraph, and off to the left, write lifelong disease. Lifelong disease. Right? We're always going to have that physical allergy. Now, guys, if all we had was the physical allergy, we could all throw a bucket in the hat and we could go home, right? But we also got a screw loose up in our heads, right? The obsession. This immediately precipitates us into a seething cauldron, right? The boiling pot of debate. Much has been written pro and con, but among physicians, highlight this 2 lines to the end of the page. The general opinion seems to be that most chronic alcoholics are doomed. I'm supposed to smash my book down there. So that most of us are going to die. Right? With all the treatment centers all over the United States, with all the AA meetings everywhere across the whole country, over 90% of us alcoholics are still dying drunk today in the United States. Right? So most of us indeed are doomed. We here in this room are very lucky. What is the solution? Perhaps I can best answer this by relating one of my experiences. You can write off to the right, just write Hank Parkhurst. He wrote to the employers. So write Hank Parkhurst. He wrote to the employers. About 1 year prior to this experience, a man was brought in to be treated for chronic alcoholism. He had but partially recovered from a gastric hemorrhage and seemed to be a case of pathological and mental deterioration. He had lost everything worthwhile in life and was only living, one might say, to drink. Highlight this little sentence. He frankly admitted and believed that for him there was no hope. So next to that, let's write step 1. That whole paragraph above is step 1, but that's step 1. He's hopeless. And that was Hank Parkhurst. He wrote to the employers. Following the elimination of alcohol, there was found to be no permanent brain injury. Right? The doctor was ready to... They used to strap a diaper onto us people with wet brains and put us away in institutions. The doctor thought that that's where this guy was, but he recovered. Following elimination of alcohol, there was found to be no permanent brain injury. Underline this next little sentence. He accepted the plan outlined in this book. Okay, so we're going to write step 2 solution next to that. Step 2 solution. 1 year later, he called to see me, and I experienced a very strange sensation. I knew the man by name and partly recognized his features, but there all resemblance ended. From a trembling, despairing, nervous wreck had emerged a man brimming over with self-reliance and contentment. I talked with him for some time, but was not able to bring myself to feel that I had known him before. To me, he was a stranger, and so he left me. A long time has passed with no return to alcohol. Next to that, write explanation of psychic change. Complete. The doctor didn't even recognize him. Explanation of a psychic change. In one part it says, vaguely recognized his features. One of the benefits when I quit drinking all that whiskey, I got my face back. Man, I used to be all puffy and funny. When I need a mental uplift, I often think of another case brought in by a physician prominent in New York. Okay, we're going to write Fitz Mayo. We're going to write Our Southern Friend, page 208, page 55. So this another guy they're describing is Fitz Mayo, Our Southern Friend, page 208 and page 250 and page 55. When I need it, so he's in here, he's in the book 3 times. When I need a mental uplift, I often think of another case brought in by a physician prominent in New York. Highlight the next 3 lines. The patient had made his own diagnosis and deciding his situation hopeless, had hidden in a deserted barn determined to die. Next to that, write step 1. Again, hopeless. He was rescued by a searching party in desperate condition brought to me. Following his physical rehabilitation, he had a talk with me in which he frankly stated he thought the treatment a waste of effort unless I could assure him, which no one ever had, that in the future he would have the willpower, circle willpower, to resist the impulse to drink. His alcoholic problem was so complex and his depression so great that we felt his only hope would be through what we then called moral psychology. Again, circle that and write values and ethics. And we doubted if even that would have any effect, right? So no longer lie, cheat, con, manipulate, steal, right? Live on the straight and narrow. By the way, this guy went to die because he was hopeless. He said, look, man, I am not going to put my family through this anymore. I'm not going to put myself through this anymore. I'm better off if you just leave me to gall darn die, right? And we doubted if even that would have any effect. Highlight the next sentence. However, he did become sold, circle the word sold, on the ideas contained in this book. Next to that, write work the steps. He has not had a drink for a great many years. I see him now and then, and he is as fine a specimen of manhood as one could wish to meet. And then highlight the end to the end there. I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through and through. Perhaps he came to scoff. He may remain to pray. Okay, so we're going to have a lot of ask sponsees. So we got one here, right? Ask sponsee. When you get right here, well, hopefully you guys will be sponsoring people if you aren't already. So ask sponsee, are you willing to read this book all the way through? Okay, and ask yourselves that too. But yeah, that's when we're going to have a lot, because the whole idea is we go through this, we recover, and then we go help others. So ask sponsee, are you willing to read this book all the way through? You can write end week 2, but I got just a couple more things to cover. This disease chart again. Are you willing to read this book all the way through? Okay, so we're going to go back to that disease chart. Okay. So, you know, the first thing I tried to do is I tried to control my drinking while drinking. Right? I tried that, and when we see because of the allergy that doesn't work. Right? I would go to the liquor store at 5 to 10 and I'd buy a half pint of liquor. Right? I'd drink it, the liquor store would close, and then, oh my God, the craving would come over me. I had to drive to the bars and spend all my money and possibly get a DWI on the way home. Right? I tried that for a long time. Then I went to a doctor and I said, Doc, give me Antabuse. Antabuse is a drug that if you drank on it, you would become physically ill. I would take the Antabuse in the morning, and by 5 o'clock I'd be kicking myself, and I would drink anyway, and I would get deathly ill. I found that if I drank for about 3 hours and did enough cocaine, I could power through the Antabuse. I would do that. Then the next morning I'd say, that's horrible, and I'd take another Antabuse pill. 5 o'clock that night I'd say, damn it, why did you do that? And I'd do it over. So, you know, I tried controlling my drinking. I tried other things for years, and then finally I realized that I can't drink anymore, right? So we're going to go back to this disease chart here, and so let's go back to the disease chart, right? We take the one drink, it triggers the craving, we follow the arrows over to the left-hand side, we can't control it, the allergy kicks in, we get completely drunk, right? We go through the stages of a spree, we emerge from that, now we're on the bottom, we emerge filled with with guilt, remorse, resentment, self-pity, fear. We say, I'm never going to take another drink as long as I live. Never, ever going to take another drink as long as I live. Right? So then what happens to us, right? And when I said this, I meant it. I told my mom, and I believed it. I said, you know what, my willpower, I could do anything on my willpower. I'm never going to take another drink. And I did this a lot. But the little things in life start to get to us. A nagging wife, a complaining husband, screaming kids, mean boss, flat tire, broken shoelaces, no raise at work, burnt bacon, aging parents that need care it gets to me. The emotions build up, they build up, they build up. I start to remember the ease and comfort that I get from a couple of drinks. No way, man, I'm not drinking. More days pass. All of a sudden, I got 90 days sober. I say, I'm probably not even an alcoholic. I've got 90 days. And I don't think an alcoholic could get 90 days. I'm going to a meeting every night to do it. I say, no, I ain't going to drink. My emotions continue to build up. They continue to build up. And all of a sudden, I say, hey, you had a boss like mine, you deserve a drink, right? I deserve a drink. No, I'm not drinking. My emotions continue to build and build and build. And all of a sudden, we think of what the alcohol can do for us. We forget what the alcohol has done to us, and we see nothing wrong with taking a drink. Now, when we see nothing wrong with taking a drink, willpower stops working, right? We forget the jailhouse, car wreck, divorce court, hospitals, job loss, bankruptcy, and we see only that alcohol will give us some ease and comfort. We see nothing wrong with taking just a couple of drinks. Willpower stops working. We take the drink, we trigger the allergy, we go through the well-known stages of the spree, we emerge remorseful with a firm resolution never to do it again. We repeat this over and over and over again. We cannot do anything about the body. We're going to have the allergy, forever, right? So we've got to attack the problem in the mind. We got to find a way to be sober without being restless, irritable, and discontented. We got to find a way to live and not be filled with guilt, shame, and remorse, right? Because, oh my God, we drink to forget that stuff. Just maybe if I could find a way to live where I have peace of mind, serenity, and happiness, find a way to live sober where I can have that sense of ease and comfort without taking a couple of drinks. Find a way to live where I don't need to take a couple of drinks to feel better. That's called recovery. We use the program of AA to find peace of mind, serenity, and happiness with no drink or drug, or for me also gambling, necessary. That is what the steps do for us. And I'm telling you, fellowship and meetings alone will not get the job done if you're a real alcoholic. The program of action in this book will. So we work through the steps, we live by the steps, we practice the steps every day. And that's what we're going to learn to do here in Code Blue. If you show up and you do everything the book asks us to do, I guarantee the same thing's going to happen to you happened to me. After 30-some years, the obsession to drink was expelled, and I learned how to become happily and usefully whole. That is what recovery is. And again, meetings and fellowship alone won't do it, but the steps will. So then when we have the spiritual awakening, we go to the newcomer, and then we teach the steps to the newcomer. So that's it for today. Let's go to page, 65? Third step, prayer, and middle of the page. God, I offer myself to Thee to build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always. Peace. Page 63, sorry. All right, so we'll meet next week, but not the 4th of July.
That's what I have to learn is that third step first.